Welcome back, guys. So in today we have a Audi Q5 2-litre diesel with 100 and something thousand miles on the clock, and it's in with me because of some electrical problems with the alternator. A bit of a history on the car. The car was actually booked into me about 2 or 3 months ago in October, November time in 2024 for a similar issue where the original 14-year-old alternator had failed. So the new alternator was installed. I say new, it was a reconditioned Valio unit, which Valio are, I think, the manufacturers for the original parts anyway, which then, after 2 or so months, led us to where we are today, where the new unit has actually failed now. Of course, parts are installed when they're supplied by myself with a warranty, so the new unit was supplied under warranty and installed into the car. However, that one didn't want to work straight away. In fact, it hasn't worked at all. Alternator number 3 is now installed. This is another reconditioned Valio unit, and as you can see, the belt is in pretty good condition. There's plenty of tension on there. It's installed and secured, and it is grounded off the block, so it's not going anywhere. The exciter wire is in and in securely, and the positive feed is also there and secure. However, we're still not getting any voltage out of the alternator whatsoever. So with cars these days, they are operated or managed by the ECU and also some battery sensing modules and some other bits and bobs in the cars, because they are what's classed as like smart chargers. So they have a number of computerized components that control and let the alternator kind of start charging or stop charging at certain points to maintain the battery life, but also to maintain the battery voltage throughout the car. It's not uncommon to hear that alternators come out of the factory or out of the box, as it were, that don't work. However, the more you replace something and it still doesn't work, it's kind of easy to think there's got to be an underlying problem somewhere else. So the testing that we've done so far is we've tested the exciter wire, which has got 12 volts permanently, which, although sounds strange, we do have 12 volts going there. The alternator, this particular one, has not been bench tested, so we don't know whether this one actually works or doesn't work, but we're going on the assumption right now that it doesn't. We've tested another alternator, which we've just come back from a local company in Wolverhampton, that, funnily enough, actually used to work with my dad many moons ago when he used to work in this industry and do all kinds of alternator rebuilds and starter motor rebuilds and engines and loads of like vehicle auto electrician kind of works, you know what I mean. They've actually tested the previous alternator, which was apparently, from first glance, they said it was a cheap Chinese unit, which is making me a little bit uncomfortable now with the quality of the parts that are coming through these days, which was actually failed the test entirely. So apparently they said it was to do with communication, which is down that cable right there. So we're going to continue, we're going to dig deeper, we're not going to quit, we are going to make sure this car works in the end and find out exactly what's gone on. I didn't actually plan on making this video, but I think there's 2 reasons. One, it's important to document the process so you can see exactly what you've done and how you've done it. But also, number 2, it might help somebody else out if they're facing a very similar problem. Whether it's specific to an Audi Q5, I'm not sure, but it's probably something that's fairly common across most modern cars these days. So keep watching this video and you will find out exactly how we get on. So I've had to come back and work on the Q5 the following day. Yesterday was pretty packed out with a couple of other bookings. I had a BMW 3 Series E92 and a BMW 7 Series F01, I think they are, both in for ZF gearbox services, which, when I got back from doing the initial work on the Q5, took up basically most of the day. And at this time of year, it gets dark very early, so thought I'd come back to it today. So today there's actually 2 cars booked in. One of them obviously is the Q5, which I needed to get onto right away. And the second car is actually a Volkswagen Touareg, which is another problem in itself, which I'll probably make another video on, which is basically all about changing disc pads with the Brembo style calipers, which, if you're familiar with these type of calipers, they tend to seize. So not the actual calipers themselves, but the pins that hold the pads into the caliper. All I'm going to say is steel and aluminium. But anyway, let's go to the Q5 and let's get this alternator out and let's go straight to the testers and get this one bench tested. When I say I've become that fast at getting these alternators out now, because of how many times I've had to take it out and put it back in and take it back out and put it back in into this car, I'm rapid. That time lapse was 18 seconds and that apparently took me 8 minutes and 17 seconds or something like that. It's crazy. So if you've got 2 litre TDI and you've got a bad alternator, come to me and I'll get it done rapid. But as you can see, this is the Valio unit. You can see a little Valio symbol just there, and it is a reconditioned unit, remanufactured, but I have fitted one of these remanufactured units to other cars before, you've probably seen my previous video with an Audi S3, same thing when that one sort of blew up, and that one worked absolutely fine. Again, another Valio sticker or symbol just there, but for some reason this car still doesn't want to charge, or this alternator doesn't want to work. So I'm going to take this now straight to a place in Wolverhampton. If you're in from Wolverhampton, DNR, I don't know what the full name is right now, but we'll find out in a minute. They're brilliant guys. I went to them yesterday and saw them for the first time, and really helpful guys. So hopefully they'll let me film inside their workshop and you can see the test running live and we can see whether this alternator works or doesn't work. Let's go and find out. Here we are in Wolverhampton DNR starters. Name suggests they don't just work on alternators, they actually work on alternators, starter motors and batteries. So it looks like a business that's fit for the future with the way that these vehicles are going. But anyway, let's get inside and let's get this on the bench, on the tester, and let's see what the results are. Here's the testing machine here. Here's the alternator in question. Let's see what the results are.
Nicest way you did proof. Press the button, put the information in, press the button, does it all for you.
Fair enough.
Meant to be a proof.
Well. So you know, on the car I've got, I think the flash is on this. On the car we've got, it's got only one single cable going in for the exciter.
Yeah,
what's the difference with this?
I don't. That's just a dummy. It's just force about it, putting it in.
Oh, right.
See where you got Lin 2 and D?
Yeah.
I don't need to put that in.
Oh,
it's
I see.
Just force about it.
Because one of the things I was thinking of was maybe the exciter has lost a wire on there, because there is actually 2 pins in the plug, but only 1 pin is plugged in. But on the alternator itself, it's got 2.
Yeah, it only uses the one. The one's a dummy.
Right. So let's have a look.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, you got your Lin. That's your connection from this wire.
Yeah.
So that's your Lin terminal. That's all working.
Right.
146 amps. 240 amp alternator, so that's maximum output.
Right.
We're still charging lovely.
13.6 volts
signal.
as well. Okay. What's the FM?
It's just a signal it sends out.
To the ECU? Right, okay. Moment of truth. I think we know what the results are already.
Good.
There we go.
I'll do the leakage test as well.
What's a leakage test?
You know, when the car's standing.
Oh,
is
right,
it
okay.
draining power out the battery while it's standing.
Oh, I see, okay.
0.0 milliamps, which is
0.
yeah.
Perfect. Brilliant. So we've got one working. I suspected it was a working unit, to be honest. So let's get this back on the car and carry on with the fault finding, I guess. So we know now for certain that we have one working alternator, which I actually thought. So I'm going to fit this back to the car once and for all, keep it on the car, and continue fault finding. One thing that he just mentioned to me before I left is that he knows from experience that there potentially is a common fault with these Q5s, where the cable from the starter to the alternator corrodes or breaks I don't know how. Corrosion I understand, but the breakage I don't understand, but we'll find out. It's worth checking and following that cable down to see if the terminal on the starter is okay, and the whole wire itself. So if I can get to the terminal, maybe I can just do a simple continuity test and see if that works, and that's the next thing I want to do. From what I've seen, changing that cable or trying to repair that cable is a bit of a pig, because getting to the starter is quite difficult because there's an engine mount and all that kind of stuff in the way, but luckily the starter motor is actually okay. So next step, let's go and find out whether that cable is faulty or if it's good. So I think I've just discovered something quite interesting actually. So I mentioned before that I have tested and I'm getting 12 volts at this cable here, which goes into the alternator just there, like the exciter wire. But here's something very strange. If I can do this hopefully one-handed. Wait 1 second. And the negative end, where the hell is my cable gone? There it is. Right, negative goes to the battery post, the negative post there, and I'm getting battery voltage. But if that's the case, then this being my kind of test light should also light up in there, providing me with 12 volts. So now if I take that away and put that end on the post like that, just to prove the point, if I go straight to the positive post on the battery or in the engine bay, it lights up as expected. But if I was to put that, if I can do that in one-handed again, straight into here, no light whatsoever. That's going straight into the pin. Very interesting. So why is that not giving me a light on there? So I think what I might try doing as a bit of a test, which me and my dad have done this already, is try and bypass that cable to provide the alternator with an exciter wire right there. You might think I'm kind of being all over the place with terminology. It's because I am. Electrics is not my strongest suit, but I'll never stop giving everything a try because I want to learn. And for me, I kind of learn by doing. So excuse the terminology, but you see what I mean. If that's providing me with 12 volts there, and so is that battery post up there, why is this test light not lighting up at the plug there, but it is at the terminal over there? So if we put a cable, maybe the same gauge as that cable there, to the positive post, hopefully this should fire this to work. Just to sort of test things as well, if I place you there, okay, right, so test light again, and I'm going to put it back on to the battery negative. Now I've just made up this piece of wire which I'm going to try and use to potentially bypass the exciter wire and see if this makes a difference. So I'm going to stick that end on the positive terminal over there, and then this to this here to see if it lights up. If it does, I can potentially use this wire to try and excite the alternator. So let's just see if it works in action. So there's that, and as you can see there, I've got power. So if I let go, no power, touch, power. So this works. Let's now see if this works on the alternator. Okay, so maybe I got a little bit carried away in doing some of that testing, and I forgot to press record. But long story short, it didn't quite work. There's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that the alternator is back in, the belt is on, everything's all plugged in and everything. And we are actually getting 2.6 or so volts at the back of the alternator. Might sound like bad news, but it's good news because before it was 0. So nothing's changed apart from literally putting it all back together again and testing it again. The bad thing is that the exciter wire didn't work the way I thought it would work. Although the wire was working off the alternator when I put it straight to the positive terminal and tested it with the light, it was working. It didn't quite do what I thought it might have done in exciting the alternator itself. So What I've decided to do for now is to park it to one side and get on with the other car, because I'm going to start getting really delayed if I don't carry on with this Touareg. So what I'm going to try and do next is, I think what's happening is that the cable going from the alternator to the starter motor, or the starter motor itself, but more likely for me the cable, is faulty. There's probably a load of corrosion on there. So I think that because I'm getting 2 volts as opposed to 12, I think there's just a lot of corrosion and loads of resistance on that wire, which is why it's not working the way it should. The way I'm going to try and bypass it is a bit sketchy, but it might work, is by putting 12 volts directly from the positive post of the car at the front to the back of the alternator itself. So if the voltage changes from 12 volts to 13, 14 when the car is running with that wire in place, we've basically isolated the starter motor, or the wire going straight to the starter motor to the alternator. So that may sound really confusing, it kind of makes sense in my head, but I will record that part and I will see whether that makes a difference. So stay tuned. Dad, show us this cable. We basically just made up a power cable. It wasn't long enough, so we had to join it in the center and make it into one long one from 2. So we're just going to test it, and of course the car's gone flat in that time, so we're going to jump start it off the Alpha Mobile and then see whether this temporary semi-permanent repair, whatever you want to call it, actually works. So we've got the meter ready. I'm going to go and get a light because it's getting dark. So we're all hooked up, positive, negative on the van, and our new cable is on the back of the alternator. Just going to give it a few minutes to put some charge into the car, and then let's give it a go. And we've got it. So if I put the meter on right now, we're at 10.8 volts. Dad, do it. We suddenly jump up to 12.9, 13, should go to about 13 and a half. But you can quite clearly see that jump in voltage, so we know exactly what the problem is now. We've got it. So it's now the next day, and I've just given the car another check to make sure. Oh crap! Ugh. This room needs a clean, man. I'm getting caught and everything. Just giving the car a check to make sure that it's running good. Everything's fine. The voltage is exactly where we expect it to be now. And yeah, the customer's going to come and collect the car today. We are going to leave the temporary fix in, obviously, on a temporary basis until the main repair can get done. That's going to be carried out in a day or two's time by another garage, just purely for time's keeping, really, for time's sake. Really, because I've got a bit of a backlog of cars that I need to make sure I crack on with, and I'm not going to be able to get this one in for another week or 2 weeks now, so I don't want to keep this one held up, and the customer is more than happy to carry on with that. So they're going to go to a garage that they've used in the past, which is a little bit further away, but it's fine, you know. From my perspective, I'm just really happy that the diagnostics was, you know, thorough and good, and we got to the root cause of it. And I'm quite proud of myself, to be honest. I'm actually really proud of myself, because that was it's a bit of a challenge. It's easy to swap parts over and say, yep, the car's all good now, but you should always do a retest to make sure everything's good. Had I not done a retest, or, you know, not checked over the work again, you know, we never would have known that the car's bad, or not quite repaired, let's say. So yeah, I'm going to leave the video there. If we do get around to doing the repair, depending on whether that garage does get them in, I'm not sure whether that's already booked in or not, then we'll be carrying that out, and I will make a part 2 of this to make sure that the repair is also thorough. But again, if you've liked this video, please do subscribe, like, comment. I am going to be trying to, as a goal of mine for 2025, I'm going to try and stick to this resolution now and post a video at least once a week. I really want to get this YouTube channel growing and to a really good position. I want to put out some really good content. Also, I've got one massive announcement to make before I go. I have now quit my main 9-to-5 job working as a management consultant, and I'm now fully self-employed. This is a huge step for me. I've never been self-employed in my entire life, apart from on a part-time basis. It's bloody scary, and I've been going for probably about approaching 4 months now. I kept it a little bit quiet just to make sure that everything has been not smooth sailing, but I want to kind of make sure that I've put the focus into the business and make sure that I know exactly what I'm doing, get myself into a bit of a rhythm, etc. But I feel comfortable enough now to say that I am fully self-employed. And you may have seen a little teaser in the video of me mentioning the Alpha Mobile. I have now bought a van, which I will be making some content on, kitting it out and offering some mobile services. The plans are basically to offer a combination of both mobile and on-premises services. So probably like your fast fit stuff, servicing, brakes, diagnostics, dash cams, maybe a little bit of valeting as well, because for those that don't know, I do some valeting. So I'm going to try and maintain all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, all the sort of larger jobs that I want to start taking on going into 2025, which we're already in, but you know what I mean. I want to start doing that here on premises and working towards getting my actual Alpha Autos workshop. So 2025 is the year. We're going to kill it. We're going to smash it. I've got some massive goals ahead of me, and I've got to keep making sure that I'm on track for every single one of these targets. So one of them is to continue posting every single week, put some good content out on all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, not really on Facebook because it's not really kind of the audience I'm going for, but those 3 channels I'm going to keep putting content out there, and I will see you in the next video. Also, I want to give a massive shout out to Marvelous Cars. He's helped me a lot during this process in bouncing ideas and giving me some things to look at and helping me with the diagnostic process. So huge thank you to Marvelous Cars. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, he's huge, so the chances are if you've seen mine, you've seen his. So if you haven't, go and check him out, Marvelous Cars on YouTube. He's sick. His diagnostics, his workmanship, everything is just top tier. So make sure you go and give him a watch.